We have asked a number of people to share, and I would, as we go along, introduce. But also there is time for others to also share reflections or areas that impacted your own life. And I'll go through the program in a short while. So thank you very much for joining us in this occasion. And this is being hosted by ESSEC and COMAC, which is a network of people in the social solidarity economy that's linked to cooperatives and so forth. I actually, as an intro for today, prepared a small set of slides, and after which I will call on different speakers who agreed to start the reflection process. So Chandra, if you can put up my slides, please. Chandra.
Yeah.
Okay. Honoring Brother Paul Sinappan, this was one of the photos in one of the meetings, ESSEC, COMAC, and we have Ben Cunyones from the Philippines, who is the founder of ESSEC. We have Pak Bambang, also one of the founding members from Indonesia, Bina Swadaya. And we have a number of other dignitaries who knew Paul and wanted to be part of this event. Dato' Shaifuddin, Dato' Yusuf Kasim, Bishop Julian will join us towards the end. He agreed to also come for this session. Next, Chandra. Okay, it's sort of capturing Paul in action. Paul, to me, is an active networker, and he participated in many gatherings. What I did was go through my laptop, the photo collection, also some of my publications to look at Paul and his legacy. I think Paul, he inspired, he taught, he trained, he mentored, he was a role model, he stood alongside the poor, whether it was disadvantaged, whether it was women. He advocated for structural changes. So those are some key points. So I took from my photos and publication some direct references. None of the photos actually captured him in the grassroots, which was actually more of his legacy, but this is from my collection. Next. So Paul participated in policy advocacy workshops, which is largely the work I was doing. He was not just in direct work with the poor, which is one dimension, but he went beyond by working with the poor. He also played a major role in policy advocacy through participation in policy dialogues and conversations. I identified from my publications, I think, and Dr. Ben will remember this, Banking for the Poor, the Christian Social Workers Symposium, and two other publications, and some event photos as well. Next. So this was an occasion in which we spent some time together. Quite a big group of Malaysians were hosted in Cochin, India, by Robin Thompson, the late Robin Thompson, who also passed away some time ago, and at Cochin, and we were in different events and gatherings, and Yusuf was definitely there, I was there, Onsen was there, and quite a number of us, Azri, Shukri, and all that, from the Malaysian team. So this is one key conference. Next. So in terms of the document, I'm not sure when I first met Paul, but definitely banking for the poor, which was Ben Cunyona's work at APDC in the 1996, was the Banking for the Poor conference in KL, and then the Washington Credit Summit. And I think Paul's work was featured because in this book that I picked up, this is one of Ben's books with from the APDC at that time, where the case study of Koperasi Credit Rakyat, which Paul advocated, was featured. And the theme of financial services to a section unreached, and the case study highlighted plantation workers. And also the whole theme of Paul's sharing of savings mobilization from among the poor, whether they started with 20 cents or 1 ringgit, it is then building from savings rather than building from loans. So he inculcated that from the credit union example, and that's captured in this publication. Next. This was an important symposium that took place in 1988. I'm not sure how many, this was published by the Council of Churches, but Malaysian Care then published it, Trends and Challenges in Christian Social Services. Paul, as a resource person from NOHD, called on organizations to shift from welfarist approach towards more upliftment programs. He did a case study on the plantation people, looking at the credit union, and Paul wrote, a community is moving towards discovering itself as its needs, aspirations, talents, local resources, and future goals. And his final statement, not just serving the victims, but also tackling the root causes of social problem. So I think this was in the forefronts of Malaysian Care's work. And of course, if we hear from Malaysian Care people now, Yang Sun and others, they've really moved into the community, and that impact at this conference is captured in a very old publication that I thought is important to remember Paul and his legacy. Next. This is the GMM meeting, and here you see Datuk Saifuddin, you see Ben Cunyonas, you see Yusuf Kasim, you see Paul Sinappan, and you also see me. This is sort of a discussion on social economy, empowerment.
Speaking
The one. And if on the top photo, Paul is next to Inche Halim, who is now the Deputy Director. Deputy Director, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Press maybe to mute their microphone so that Dennison gets clearer.
Yes, those who are not speaking at this point, please mute your mics. Inche Halim is now the Deputy Director General of the Economic Planning Unit, and many ideas, and Paul is actually Joshi, I see Onsen in the background, were regular policy discussions that we had. Next, please. So this is another publication that Center for Public Policy Studies brought out. There were 12 roundtable discussions, but Paul participated actively in the low-income families that was at Sunway. And in assisting low income, we need to address alienation and deprivation. The empowerment of the poor with financial literacy is actually captured in the document, and his name is also listed among the contributors. And this also has, Dato' Saifuddin as Higher Education Minister involved at that time in these kinds of discussions. Next, please. And this was on the Indian community. It was at Putrajaya in 2009. It was a focus on preparing the 10th Malaysia Plan, and Paul participated. In fact, there is a photo of Paul doing a presentation. The references are there in this book. And one of the major push at that time was seeing Indian concerns as national concerns and just not ethnic solutions is something that came out. Next. Yeah, this I think Onsen will highlight this. I think Paul played a key role with Onsen and the YKPM people in the cooperative formation. And this is a meeting actually with Dato Daniel Ho and others in that, and it's from one of my collection of photos I had, and Paul sat through to facilitate, encourage, and develop. Next. So in this program, A Time of Sharing and Remembering, we have introductions or reflections from Dato Yusof Kasim of COMAC, Malaysia, our sister Kia Hui, who was with Malaysian Care, Onsen, Dr. Ben Kunyonas, Dato Saifuddin Abdullah, and then we'll open up, and finally we'll call on the family to say a few words, and towards the end, Bishop Julian might say a few words and close in prayer. So that's the note. I will sort of simple moderation, but we will try and keep to brief interventions rather than too long. As we know, there are many other close friends, family, and people present who might also like to share something at this occasion. So can I invite Dato Yusof Kasim? Most of us know him. He was the chair of the cooperative college in PJ. He was academic, then civil servant, higher education ministry, now retired and active in ASEC and the People's Movement for Economy. Dato Yusof, to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dato' Denison. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera. Good morning to all. Firstly, I would like to speak on behalf of COMAC and also cooperative movement in Malaysia. But first, at a personal level, actually, I came to know Brother Paul in early 1980s, you know, so more than 30 years already. So there are many kenangan bersama, if you like, with Brother Paul. To me, Brother Paul is a very humble person, very patient, very cooperative, and ever willing to share his vast knowledge, you know. He's really a good friend of mine, and he has a towering personality. So at a personal level, I am indeed losing a good friend, and I feel very sad. So on behalf of COMAC and also cooperative movement, I would like to take this opportunity to convey our sincere and deepest condolence to his family, particularly his wife Rebecca, son Arul, Prakash, and daughters, and to his families at large. So now I go to COMAC as a society at the grassroots level. Paul actually has participated actively in many COMAC activities, not only in Malaysia, but also overseas. He attended and presented paper in many COMAC workshop and conference, including the one that mentioned by Dato' Denison, the one in Kuching in 2012. For cooperative sector in Malaysia, actually cooperative movement in Malaysia is really losing a pioneer of credit union or microfinance. He's one of the pioneer in the microcredit in Malaysia, if you like. So I really admire him for his success not only in motivating, but more important is mobilizing the poor through cooperative to save money, to invest, and to be more self-reliant. This is the value that is the important value that is instilled among the poor. Actually, not easy to encourage people to save. Even the well-to-do people also, you know, sometimes they spend they actually would like to spend more rather than to save. But he managed to motivate the poor to save, you know, and to invest from that money. So not taking any loan. Yeah. So because I think Paul wanted to avoid from exploitative financial system. Yeah, that's number one. So he fight actually not on for the poor, not only in the rural, not only in plantation, kampung people, orang asli, but also in urban community. And more important point to remember is that he does it for Malaysian community, Malay in the kampung, Indian in the plantation estate, and orang asli and people in the urban area. So to me, Paul work is actually not only at the local, at the community level, but also at the national and global level, especially with regard to policy formulation on the poor, cooperative, human rights, and gender equality. So his work actually not only to uplift the living standard of the poor, but more important is to instill the self-reliant spirit of value, Malaysia boleh, among the poor. He actually inspired, he taught, he trained, he mentored people. This is really a role model. To me, is really a role model. So once again, on behalf of COMEC and also cooperative movement in Malaysia, I wish to convey our deepest condolence to the family, and may his soul rest in peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yusof, for your kind words and reflection, putting the context of Paul's legacy and work. We all know that Paul mentored people. He inspired, he encouraged from lifestyle as well as his work. And I'm happy to ask Kia Hui to share her reflections and experiences with Paul and the work that she was inspired to continue. Kia Hui?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for
Morning.
organizing this memorial for friends and loved ones to gather to remember a true friend who has given himself to us and reached us by investing himself generously. This photo I took of Paul in 2013, and this is how I remember Paul: warm and welcoming, encouraging and tireless, always willing and accessible. For the next few minutes, I'd like to share my memory of Paul and who he was to me. In 2013, January, we were in Negeri Sembilan for preparation to start an Orang Asli cooperative. We went to an Orang Asli village together to support and provide training to the community organizer, Darren Pang. Paul was showing Darren how to set up a cooperative, the governance structure, which is so important for a good cooperative, and the documentation process and the whole works. Even though Paul has done this so many times, he has done the same process with numerous groups, both here in Malaysia and in other developing countries, when he was coaching Darren that day, he was excited about the new cooperative and went through every detail with patience, as if he was doing it for the first time. There's always a life-giving touch about Paul. I came to know Paul through the Orang Asli cooperative movement. Paul began with Malaysian Care. He taught my seniors in Malaysian Care how to set up a cooperative in the 1990s, and especially modified the system and process to suit the unique context of the indigenous people, especially designed to help those living in remote locations without access to microfinancial services. The cooperative Sengoy Pribumi Pera, a cooperative of the Semai indigenous people, was first set up under the coverage of Koperasi Kredit Rakyat, the People's Credit Union, until it became independent in 2007. The KSPP today serves over 1,000 Orang Asli members in Perak, including children members. Many who would otherwise have no access to saving and credit facilities benefited and improved their livelihoods because the cooperatives offer them the much needed economic opportunities without exploitation. Some of the members now are third generation members. Paul was also passionate and dedicated in empowering poor community through other economic initiatives, and especially building capacity among the grassroots leaders. He was a great teacher to the community. Literacy level, language, location were of no concern. He could teach anyone who is willing to learn. Among the people he was uplifting through leadership training, Paul was dedicated to strengthening women. Paul was an advocate for women empowerment. He taught husbands how to respect their wives and to see them as equal partners. For me, I began working closer with Paul in 2010. He was my mentor in developing a financial literacy program for the urban poor. He trained me and a pioneering team to strategize the network, build a team of trainers, and produce 2 training manuals. He was at that time suffering from severe gastric troubles, but he would still take nearly 2-hour bus and train journey all the way from Batang Berjuntai to conduct this monthly training that would last often the entire day. So here's a photo capturing the launch of the Financial Literacy Program Trainers Manual in 2014 September. The Financial Literacy Program is a tool to create economic stability in poor urban families by helping the heads of household making aware and wise daily financial decisions through planning and budgeting. The work has since flourished, trained hundreds of trainers and over 1,000 of community members throughout Malaysia, and still actively reaching out to and impacting more households. Here's Paul at the launch of the Financial Literacy Program Trainers Manual. You can see on his face, he was overjoyed. He was one of the guests of honor seated in the front rows and enjoying a joyful moment, celebrating the fruits of his labor multiplied. For Paul, it was never about him. It was always about how he could be of help and serve. Generosity and humility were his unmistaken hallmarks. And this was the last working event together in 2019 November at the National SDG Summit. You can see Paul, Dr. Dennison is also there. I was glad we took a photo together. Although this was not the last time I saw him, but this was our last photo taken together. At this moment, when we gathered to look at Paul's life, we could see the evidences of a life well lived, a life that has made daily decisions on things that matters in the really long run. Paul has left behind a life-giving legacy by giving himself to many. After 5 decades of tireless work to elevate poverty among the poorest communities, despite setbacks and limitations, Paul maintained a hopeful outlook and full of zest till the end. This is the same spirit I would like to cultivate and possess as I follow his footsteps in caring for justice and improving the everyday reality of the poor and marginalized. The work he has given his life to build will continue to extend and expand through you, me, and many individuals he has touched to serve and empower the poor community for years to come. So I thank God for having a great teacher, an example of faithfulness and hopefulness, and an embodiment of the love of God. Thank you, Paul, and thank you all for the opportunity to honor his memory.
Thank you very much, Kia Hui. I think your reflections, as well as captured by the photos, do depict Paul at the grassroots, and I think that's an amazing story, and the experience. And our prayer is that you will continue, like Paul, to inspire others as well. Can I invite Kon Onsen, who also has worked closely with Paul in the YKPM and a movement I'm part of as well. Onsen, can I pass the time to you?
Thank you, Dr. Dennison, for this privilege. And I was saying it was such a privilege because Paul was a towering giant in social change in Malaysia, and inspired me in so many ways. So grateful that the family, Rebecca and the children can all be together for us to share some of our fond memories of Paul. I'm going to mention in three particular aspects that I saw in Paul, such incredible aspects of him. The first is as one of the champion of the poor, secondly, as a visionary, and the third, as a man of humility. I'm going to start with, he was a champion of the poor, but much more, he was a friend of the poor. That he lived his life in selfless devotion for the poor. I remember when we invited him for talks and to provide training for our volunteers, he shared with us the deeply entrenched problems facing the plantation Tamil workers. Frustrated with low wages, the husbands turned to toddy. And in turn, in their alcohol state and drunkenness, they abuse wives, and that caused a cycle of entrenched poverty. But Paul came in with a very unique approach. He shared with us how he began to restore marriages, how he began to bring in gender balance and strengthen mutual respect. And I will wonder, how did you ever do this? And it wasn't about, at that point, divorces, separation was taboo. The women had little hope, caught in that cycle of exploitation. And yet Paul came in his very innovative way to find a solution. And he did not come in to separate the family, but to restore them. And he did it through a credit union and his savings plan. He went beyond just encouraging, but he actually equipped them and enabled them, creating this cooperative and credit union. And beyond that, he also created support groups within their own community, within their own families and mothers and wives that were suffering. And in that, they started first with, it's totally unimaginable to us. He taught them just to save their 5 cents, their 10 cents a month, and started with buying erasers and pencils. But from there grew hope and grew hope for the children. It grew hope for the mothers as they were able to get savings to start social enterprises, little businesses that could now help the insufficient savings and income from the husbands. And it grew as a result of that. And even the men started coming in. And so from there, he began to deal with a problem that was unsolvable at the face of it through a means with such humble means and beginning. And men with no huge funding, but just a man with a heart and being prepared to be a friend of the people. Secondly, he came to visit me. He was a man of humility, a people's person. I remember he came all the way to visit me in Moa, where I was as a young lawyer. And he knew I was very interested in helping the poor. And he came purposely just to share with me and to help me understand how credit union could be a very powerful way of uplifting the Orang Asli. And I remember he spent the night, and we had many hours of talking and sharing. And I was so touched with his humility. He wasn't a man that was that put importance to numbers or even to names or honorifics. He just wanted to impact lives and make a difference. And he was prepared to go all the way to invest his life in mine, just to help me be more effective in impacting the Orang Asli. And so those are very fond memories. Thirdly, he was a visionary. As I listen from him and we meet from time to time, I continue to be amazed. He expanded his work from the Tamil poor to helping the poor Malay farmers in the rural areas. And then when we were in Cochin with Comet and Dato' Yusuf and Dennison there, I remember, he was at that time already exploring how to work with the garbage workers, garbage collectors, and working some way to lift them out of their poverty and their problems. And at the same time, he continued to challenge and talk about how do we reach the sex workers. And I thought, wow, this man, at a point already at the peak of his success, he's doing so well. They're able to generate 4 million over profits from the corporate, from their cooperative and credit union among the plantation workers. And yet he was never satisfied, not always wanting to see where is the next paradigm, where is the next area that needs to be reached, the untouchables. And so for them, no one was left behind. No one was too far. And finally, I know Paul Sinappan was a devout Catholic, deeply devoted to his God, but never used religion. In all that I've seen, he never used religion to take advantage of the poor. He believed in a God who was colorblind, who loved everyone regardless of color, ethnicity, and religion. He lived out his faith in every way. Paul is a true Malaysian who loved his country and has contributed so much to those left behind. His passing away is a great loss, not just to me, but to the nation. I take comfort that today he has completed his journey or pilgrimage to heaven and earned the highest award and recognition from his creator God. Well done, good and faithful servant. And not just that, and today he continues to live out his legacy through many of us who have been touched and inspired by his life to continue to reach out to the poor. So thank you, Paul. We look forward to seeing you back again one day.
Thank you, Onsen, for that sharing. We know how, as a lawyer, you have now become community worker, organizer, farmer, and I'm sure the life of Paul Sinappan impacted that. And thank you for your sharing. Let me invite Dr. Ben Cunyones, the founder of ASAC and now based in the Philippines, although he was in Malaysia for, I think, about 10 years as the lead researcher at APDC on poverty. Dr. Ben, over to you.
Thank you, Dato'. At the outset, I would like to thank Dato' Saifuddin for remembering Paul and suggesting that we come together in order to honor the life of our brother Paul. Also, thanks to Dato' Dennison for organizing this meeting today. And I'd like also to personally convey my deepest sympathies to the wife of Paul Rebecca, to his children, his brothers, siblings, and relatives, and to thank them for sharing the life of Paul, enabling him to touch our lives. And I just saw in the number of participants, we are over 70. one of the largest, in fact, meetings that ASEC has organized. So thank you, everyone, for joining us in honoring the life of Paul today. The poor can overcome poverty when they organize and cooperate among themselves to maximize the use of scarce resources. The poor can overcome poverty when they organize and cooperate among themselves to maximize the use of scarce resources. This was the mindset of our dear friend Paul Sinappan, who dedicated his life working with the poor and socially excluded. In the words of his own son, Anand Prakash, Paul was a well-known social activist, defender of human rights, community builder, and pioneer of microcredit system for the poor. In fact, what Paul introduced and developed in Malaysia is not a microcredit system, but a financial intermediation system of the poor, by the poor, and for the poor. It's a self-organized financial system that is managed and operated by the poor for their own benefit and their own communities. Paul recounted how he came to embrace and nurture this mindset in one of the gatherings organized by ASEC. At a young age, Paul was given a scholarship to attend a training program in the Philippines about credit unions. This opened his eyes to the possibilities of uplifting the socioeconomic status of poor Malaysian Indian rubber tappers. It was not the training program that propelled Paul to work with the poor. Many have attended training programs but used their knowledge elsewhere. Many people who also came from humble beginnings and who acquired higher education have sought employment elsewhere where pay is more attractive. Among my classmates in the University of the Philippines College of Agriculture, very few have devoted their lives to helping the poor and marginalized farmers and fisherfolks. Students of the University of the Philippines are considered scholars of the people because their tuition is subsidized by the government. And yet, most graduates of my alma mater, like graduates of other colleges and universities, tend to work for companies that can afford to pay handsome salaries. But that is their choice, not Paul. Paul had the intellect and the opportunity to land a job in a well-endowed company or organization. But he chose to work with the poor. He chose to work with the poor. That segregates, that separates Paul. That identifies him differently from many people that we know. He was following his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who brought hope to those who have less in life. Paul chose the people over and above personal gain and profit. This is why Paul is one of a kind. He chose the road less traveled because he didn't want to leave his own people behind. Today, we pay respect to the passing away of a humble man and friend by celebrating the wonderful life he lived. We shall remember Paul with his bright smile beaming amidst the challenges of life. We shall hold him high in our memories as a model father, a model people's leader, a model citizen who dedicated his life in leading his people to a life of hope and dignity.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ben. Thank you very much, Dr. Ben. I think the work that you did on banking for the poor, credit, and so forth, and now in solidarity economy, links very closely to what Paul did in the empowerment of the poor in that context. Let me invite Dato Saifuddin Abdullah, who needs no introduction. I think he comes to us this morning as a friend and as a colleague in the social economy. But I think I need to also say he is a minister in the current government and Minister of Information. And when he was higher education minister, He did promote a lot on social economy, solidarity economy, and so forth. Dato, thank you for taking time to join us, and also for encouraging such a memorial in honoring Paul. Over to you, Dato. Unmute. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Denison. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First and foremost, I would like to convey my deepest condolences to Mrs. Paul and Arul and Prakash and the children. I'm deeply honored to be able to join our session this morning to celebrate the life of a true and true grassroots activist, Brother Paul Sinappan. As I was alluding to earlier before the start of the session, I know Brother Paul quite late. I think maybe it was around 2012 or 2011. And this was through a meeting. I remember there was the first panel discussion. I was seated among the audience and Paul was one of the panelists. And I thought this was organized by Gerald somewhere in Petaling Jaya. And then, of course, we met. I met Paul a number of times, either by programs organized by COMEC, Professor Yusof or Denison at that time. And I remember hosting him a couple of times when I was CEO of the Global Movement of Moderates. I may not be able to share very intimate times with him because most of the time I met Paul in meetings and through panel discussion. But from the first time I met him, I thought this is a true and true activist. Many of us are activists in many ways, but some of us are academics. Some of us, I mean, we are all activists, but some of us choose to become academic, choose to become managers in all kinds of organizations, though we still remain activists. Some of us choose to become researchers and so on and so forth. But I thought here is a gentleman who chose to become, for lack of a better way of saying, a true and true activist. He never changed. He's a grassroots person. As was mentioned earlier, he works with the poor and he becomes a friend of the poor. He never leaves the poor, if I can put it that way. He has been involved in the cooperative movement. He is a pioneer of the microcredit system in Malaysia. He was also very much into human rights and gender equality. But what struck me most is when he promoted the idea that the poor should not borrow but to save. This, to me, is a very important paradigm that he is trying to share and to educate the poor, because a few people earlier mentioned about hope. Yes, but I thought this is about dignity. When you borrow, it's like you let others decide on your dignity. I'm not saying that borrowing is bad. I mean, we know that borrowing is important, but the fact that he keep on stressing that the poor should save rather than borrow, I think on the one hand, it is about hope, but more importantly, it is about dignity. And I must confess, because I've never said this to anyone before, when I left UMNO in 2015, October, and I joined Parti Keadilan Rakyat, one of the programs that I started for 3 to 6 months was the campaign on Marwah Melayu. Marwah is dignity, Ben. Malay dignity. So I said, okay, let's go on the campaign of Malay dignity. I must tell you, dignity is not a new word. Everyone understands it, but actually borrowed that from Paul. He didn't use dignity. He used dignity once in a while, I remember, in some of the panel, but I thought that was how I would, if I can define the fundamental of Paul's work is, I think he tried to nurture and educate the poor about the importance of being a dignified person, and I borrow that. But I must also confess I was not very successful in my campaign. I tried, but probably I didn't learn enough from Paul. You see, I mentioned that he is a true and true grassroots activist. He worked with the poor, with the underserved. But you see, there are activists who work with the poor or work with the community and live with them and become friends of the community. But sometimes they work with the poor or with his or her community, but detached from others or detached from the bigger picture. I think what is unique about Paul is while he works with the poor and lives and be a friend of the community, he is also involved through dialogues and all kinds of participation with the policy makers. He was also at the same time a policy advocate. If I can use a dance as an analogy, there are many good dancers, but they dance without knowing why they dance and why they move their hands and legs and their neck and fingers in that manner. Paul knows all of those movements, but Paul is also able to tell the audience why this dance is beautiful and why this dance is important and why the audience should learn about it and try and share with other people. So he was, as I said, a true and true grassroots activist, but at the same time is able to share his thoughts and his work with others and try to influence others, including policy makers, which I think is really very, very important. We all believe that in developing the country, we normally talk about the three circles that meet somewhere in the middle: the state, the business, and the civil society. And we all know that in all of the three circles, there are lots of weaknesses and we need to strengthen it. But I think when we look at the circle of the civil society in Malaysia, I think Paul stands very tall in that circle as someone who knows his work very well, never leave it. He lives his work. And at the same time, he is able to share his work with the other two circles. I'm not so sure how much he shared with the private sector, but I know definitely he knows how to navigate and share with one of the other circle, i.e. The state or the policy makers. If I may end by saying this, I know that his son, Prakash, through one of his WhatsApp, told me that he wants to continue his dad's work. But I think among friends here, we may want to think of a way how we can extend Paul's work to the young ones, to the young activists. If I can put it simply, we need more Paul Sinappans in Malaysia. Not only in the micro credit system, I mean in all of the works that we do in civil society. So we are very happy indeed to be here this morning, but I think ASEC and COMEC may want to think of other ways of remembering and celebrating his work in more fruitful manner by, training young people to be a true and true activist who live his work, but at the same time is able to reach out to others who then would be able to assist and share the work. So to me, Paul is an exemplary activist, and may Allah bless his soul. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dato Saifuddin, for your reflections and thoughts. I think it's, and also thank you for raising how do we want to sort of remember Paul and the legacy. I think Prakash did raise the possibility of a foundation or a trust. When Prakash raised that, I text Dato Saifuddin, you need ringgit 1 million now to set up a foundation. But money is not the issue. I think it's more like what Dato said, how can it be a place of training or role modeling and so forth. And this is something we can discuss with the family and others. We can also take it up with people in government to see how to facilitate such a thing. Now, I thought we still have some time. Towards the end, I'll call Prakash and the family to say a few words before Bishop Julian closes our event. I thought because Pak Bambang of Bina Swadaya, the founder, also a founding member of ASEC with Dr. Ben. Pak Bambang, you like to say a few words because you also know Paul, and Bina Swadaya, I think, is one of the largest, microcredit and rural development organization. Pak Bambang?
Yes, thank you, Professor. I'm really stuck with the news that Paul is passing away. And my motivation to join this meeting is especially to express my deep condolence to the families and also to friends in Malaysia. Paul was my friend in 1974. 1974, during the DRAW workshop, Development of Human Resources in Rural Asia workshop. And this workshop was initiated by SILA, Socio-Economic Life in Asia, organized by the Jesuit office called Asian Human Development Office in Manila. And at that time, Paul was very young, 24 years old. He was representing the plantation workers and very active in that area. Why I'm really want to join this meeting, because it's so long time we didn't have very much as before communication with Paul, and suddenly now I realize that the situation is very much different. So again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the organizer to make possible everybody join this meeting. That's what I'm like to express, Denison. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pak Bambang. We can have two ways of people expressing. Not everyone will be able to speak today, but if you have an interest to briefly intervene, could there be a show of, you can, raise the hand on the, indication, or leave a note in the chat. Okay. Who would like to say a few words? I'm not able to see. Okay. Professor Slow, I see your hand up. If you can put up, then I can scroll through the laptop to check it. Okay, Prof. Slow?
Just very few words, Dr. Denison. First of all, my deepest condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Paul Sinappan. I first heard about Mr. Paul Sinappan from a friend, Lorraine Corner, and she told me, you must meet this gentleman. He's kind of different and interesting. And the first time that I met Mr. Paul Sinappan was when he was a panelist, and he was indicating how he came into doing work on gender and women. Paul said that he grew up helping his mom do all the housework, marketing, etc. Then he was going to get married. And he said in this panel that on the day of his wedding, one of his uncles took him aside and said, yes, you have been a very good son. You have helped your mom do all the housework, but now you're getting married and it's time for you to be a man around the house, which basically meant not helping around the house. Then Paul said that he went for some gender training. And when he went for the gender training, he discovered there's so many issues, and he decided that he would go back to being the dutiful son that he was and help in the house, as well as do some work amongst women to improve the lot of women, especially Indian women. And since then, I've met Paul on several occasions, and he's attended many conferences and seminars that I organized when I was in UM, as well as he's also visited Binary University and for social entrepreneurship related events. Let the memory of Paul live on in his work, and which I'm sure that that many of those that he has trained will continue. And now I hear that there is an attempt to actually set up something a bit more formal. Dr. Dennison, I'll have a chat with you after this on what I have some ideas. And you don't require $1 million ringgit
Okay.
to set up a foundation. Okay, I'll talk to you about that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. James, I see your hands up. I see Kana Kayal as well. James, you first.
Thank you, Dr. Dennison. I will make it very short. I had a very short experience with Brother Paul, but it was a lasting and very impactful impression that he has left in my life. He was one of the person instrumental for me to stay in Tannamaram Estate for a week to learn about credit cooperatives, rural and community development. He has introduced to me how to organize a community, poor communities, by introducing credit cooperative, experiential learning. I learned a beautiful song from him, that is, it is I who build community. I've learned how to actually engage with the poor community by organizing games, through experiential learning, which I have to tell to Brother Paul's family that what he has taught me, I'm still actually applying more, into getting the community engaged through all this learning experience. And when I was at the estate, because as part of my my certificate in community studies, which Dr. Dennison and organized at that time under the Center for Community Studies. And what I learned from him, he said, James, the best way, to know people, to understand the poor, the cooperative system, is that you have to live with them, you need to talk to them, and you need to understand their life. So when I was there, I saw a lot of these people, a lot of children, young people, the elderly, they just look up to him and they will speak to him, they're so open, and he was like a local star over there. So these are some of the good values that I've picked from him, which I am now applying in my life, also in my work that I'm continuing to do now. Thank you very much, and my deepest condolence to the family. May the peace of the Lord be with you. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, James. Kayal, sorry, I think I pronounced the name wrongly. Can you? Kana?
Or maybe we can start with Anthony Roger.
Yes, Anthony Rogers. Sorry. Yes. Brother
Hello,
Anthony.
Dr. Dato.
Yes,
Dennison.
you seem very different, but
yes,
welcome,
I've got a long beard.
Yes.
Yes. Paul is someone very, very special. I've known him for 40 years. I know his history, and this is where what Dato Saifuddin said. The task in Malaysia is to focus on young people, to offer them a new alternative in life. And that alternative is not about saving, it's not just about having, but about giving. And that is the essence of what Paul did. He gave his life. He, Father Gautier, Father Karov, Frenchman, who initiated him into the meaning of what it means to give and to serve. And that's what Paul did. Paul worked and served as a member of the community of the National Office for Human Development, part of the Catholic Church. And the work that Paul did was not just with the cooperatives, he also went around the churches, the communities, with all our friends in Malaysian Care, with you, Denison, and all our friends to help young people to begin a new journey. A new journey, as Dr. Saifuddin said very, very appropriately, that our future is with the young. And Paul, as a young man, as a very, very young man, began his journey. And his journey has brought him to where he is now. His wife, his children, and all the beautiful people that he worked with. And I'm very, very proud and happy to have been given the opportunity to work with Paul for more than 30 years. And the National Office for Human Development, the Catholic Church, and the word Catholic is about reaching out to everybody, especially the poor. And that's what Paul did. And we are very proud, Dr. Denison,
Thank you.
that we have had a very, very special friend with us.
Yes.
But I'm very, very sure that we can motivate the young people today to move on to a journey of courage and with dignity. And that's what Paul did. Thank you, Dato.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brother Rogers, and for the work NOHD has done in this country in a very formative way. And you were also part of that process with Paul and others. Thank you. Lata and Joachim.
Hello, and thank you, Dato. I'm Lata Rangasamy. I would like to share briefly how Uncle Paul shaped my thoughts and inspired me to the person I am today. I met Uncle Paul when I was 16 years old, and I've attended a series of talks that he conducted. He sowed the seeds of gender diversity at a young age in myself to take charge of my own development and how to empower myself. That's interesting, Dato. Now things are very different compared to 1990s. Then, as a students, we were exposed to exam subjects only. But I was exposed to topics like change, gender balancing, financial literacy, and showing enduring love and care for others through the various engagement sessions that I had with him. Born and bred in a patriarchal family, he taught me how important it is for men and women to work together to make gender equality a reality. Those years were certainly formative years in my character and my thoughts, leading to who I am today, advancing the women agenda in the organization that I work for, and promoting equal responsibility in my family. When I started working, Dato, about financial literacy, once Uncle Paul said, Lata, if you can't save 10% of what you earn, you need to take stock and re-look at your expenses and find a way to save. And that is a principle that I follow until today, Dato. And Uncle Paul, we will surely miss you, and may your soul rest in peace. Thank you, Dato.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lata. I'm not able to see all the hands up, so please help me as well. Who else would like to share? Yes, Brother Rajamanikam.
Hi. Hello to all. Thank you for making time to be in the gathering to honor Paul. I, as an extended member of the family, would like to say that I grew up with him in the teenage days, as well as in the church activities. And Paul stands out to me as the universal personality, Catholic, being universal, inclusive, and that's what he is. He included everyone in his life, and his family of origin, where his parents are persons who are ever willing to share the little they have. You grow up in that kind of sharing environment. Therefore, today, as we honor him, we are honoring their parents and all their siblings who have been supportive to what he was doing. At this point, I'd like to very specially to express myself to Sister Rebecca. The saying goes, every successful man, there is a woman behind it. And I think Rebecca, she was not standing behind him. She was walking with him, giving him the fullest support that he needed to do what he was doing. And I think, as Brother Roger earlier said, the Catholic Church has contributed to him to grow up in a way of including everyone, at the same time not making the religion as the supremacy of serving. The very personhood of Paul made it a real Malaysian, true Malaysian, a role model to all of us. Especially I'm in Montfort Boys Town. I have invited him before for some motivation session and all that. And even today, if I have a list of people to consider role models, and Paul stands out as one of them. And along with that, I would like to express the legacy that he leaves behind. Arul Prakash. I think for us, easy to motivate many other people outside our family, but he has motivated his very son, who is very much part of this continuation. And because of that, I think greater credit should be given to Paul for that. He's not only a role model to outside world, a role model to his own family. So we have in the person of Arul Prakash, someone to continue the legacy. Along with that, I would like to add that Bishop Sebastian would like to be in this Zoom meeting, but because he has something else to do, he asked me to convey his best wishes to all. And to the family, I'm not going to extend condolence, but I ask you to rejoice. Rejoice with your beloved Paul. He is in the Creator God, is enjoying the kind of reward that God has prepared for him. May his soul rest in peace. Amen.
Thank you, Brother Roger Manikam. Can I invite Ms. Shirley Lee? You need to unmute. Sister, you need to unmute. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl Lee, and I work with Brother Paul Sinappan in the National Office for Human Development. You know, this man is truly a beloved child of God, whom all of us take great joy, great inspiration from. I would like to add on what y'all have expressed earlier. To me, Paul is my very credible, authentic teacher. He is a cat. And not only that, he is also a very humble student of life. I remember one Easter, he said that he did not spend time with his family, but he spent it with the fisher folks. He spent it with fisher folks because he wanted to know the way of life. And the resurrection happened because he was with people of different faiths, learning from them and sharing his faith with them. And I would also like to share with you that I was deeply, deeply saddened when I heard that he was very sick. Rebecca and the whole family, really, I'm so sad when I was told that he was so sick. He is really a life giver. And what happened was, you know, he shared with us in the National Office of Human Development. I feel like I'm a ripe fruit, a very ripe fruit, but I have to fall so that I can spread my seeds out to touch many other lives. I must die so that others may live. And this is where we, the younger people, you know, we feel so happy, so blessed to have a very good teacher like Brother Paul. I was so happy when he was given the honorary doctorate. But doctorate does not qualify him as a person. He is more than a doctorate person. He is a beloved child of God who has lived life to the fullest, who have been so used by God to show that our God is a God of love. He is a God of love who wants to build the kingdom, not just the church, not just our various races or beliefs, but he is a God who wants to build the whole family of God as one person. My deepest thanks to Rebecca and the whole family and all of you, because without all of you, I would not be who I am today. Thank you so much, and may God bless all of you, and may his legacy live on in all of us, and also may God embrace Brother Paul in his divine light and love always. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sister, for your sharing. I know some people have put comments on the chat. I see John Milton. Yes, over to you. Anyone else, please indicate as well. Thank you, John. Over to you.
Thank you, brother. Good morning, brothers and sisters. I'd like to share my view with brother. So, anyway, I know brother since 1991, brother and sister Papati. Since I'm in the representative for the young people to the Archdiocese office in Asayu. And from there, I know them through Father Ben Savarimutu introduced to us that they are the couples with journey with the young people. And I tell you, a lot of my friends, until now, we are still active, not only in the church, for the people, because of them. Mr. and Mrs. Paul and Papati, they do wonderful things in our life. Not only as friends, in our family, teach us how to make a relationship within the family members, how to in the finance difficulties, how to go through in the finance difficulties. And that not only that I'm Indian, but I cannot read and write Tamil. But you know that I'm involved in a lot of things with its motivation. I'm in Asayo as a youth chairperson for 4 terms. And from there, I journey with the young people for the 10 years, and we celebrate, and we make a huge program for the young people. The Asayo is called Archdiocese Single Adult and Youth Office in KL near Bukit Nanas. From there, we are take care of the 5 districts under Asayo. So because I'm involved in the Tamil speaking, I must help to get a program for the Tamil speaking young people in the churches. So not only for the religious life, we invite PDRM, Bomba, SOXO, labor law, all these we give courses. We sit with the brother, he teaches how to prepare a program for the young people, especially what their life needs, not only religious, but in our nature life, where we are living, our area, our neighbors, all that is teachers. Not only that, after we left the Sayo, we as a friends come together in 2007. We formed as a leaders called Unity. The young leaders, we all come together, we make some fundraising to do some business within us. 10 of us, we come together to do that. But unfortunately, after 2-3 years, some of our members not happy the way they do. But I never lived like that. I came to Kajang. I formed my own corporation with the help of both of them. And in 2007, June, I formed a corporation in my area. Now I got at least 80 to 90 people with us until now, and they are very active. And not only that, in my own life, is teaching a lot of things, especially I cannot forget both of them for my daughter engagement. They came forward all the way from Batam Juntai, Charas to to be with us and help us. And brother, I'm only a normal driver, but he teach me how to arrange for the wedding arrangement. And my son-in-law is not local; is from foreign, from India. And the way they guide me is bring me success. I never ask single cent from the people. With the cooperative money, I arranged my daughter wedding, and God bless. I already have 2 granddaughters, and I never forget brother and the family. They're always there. Always pray for them. Thank you to give this opportunity.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for your sharing. Yes, sister, I see Friends of Peace, is it?
Yeah. Hello,
yes, please.
My name is Kins. I am from the Philippines. Hello, Brother Anthony. I'm so blessed to have known Paul in his last few years. And every time I meet him, it's like meeting a star, because I knew how big he is in the world of development. But I will share with you three things. In his greatness, he is still able to distill things in a very, very simple way that everyone can understand. Number 2, there is no doubt that he really loved his family. And he is not ashamed to even cry in front of the crowd. And he will tell us, don't tell Rebecca that I'm crying. But his love for his children and his grandchildren is really great. And it is such an inspiration to everyone, even to the people that he met. Number 3, his simplicity and his love for integrity is not just for a show. We remember him taking a bus ride, I don't know, from where he was, maybe at 4 a.m. in the morning, stopping many times just to join us for a workshop that was just 2 years ago, because he wanted to support this movement for peace. And after that, and he was carrying a big suitcase because he was due to go for a board meeting in Manila. And the young people, the people who saw him do that, is like, what? He is attending an international board meeting, and he is riding a bus at his age. And he has the patience to sit down with us for a day, not as a speaker, but as a participant. Didn't spoke more of his person and his advocacy than everything else. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you, Rebecca and children, for lending Paul to us.
Thank you.
Nandri.
Thank you, sister, for sharing. Anyone else? If not, I'm going to pass to Arul to speak on behalf of the family. I see other friends who I know most of us have not switched on our cameras, but just in case anyone else would like to, I see Bishop Julian, so thank you, Bishop, for joining us.
I see raised hand from Cheryl Lee, but I don't know whether she's responding now.
Okay.
Cheryl.
Brother Arul, would you like to, Arul Prakash, would you like to share on behalf of the family and at this point?
Yes, sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Paul.
Okay, cool. Good day, everyone. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of my family to thank each and everyone for arranging this memorial. Thanks for your sympathy and kindness. Your effort to join in and the many inspiring messages that were shared on social media prove only one thing. My late dad has touched many hearts, left the most indelible marks in many lives, and is loved by many people across the world. We also can witness this from the sharing today. Despite the many proud moments, achievements that he has crafted in history, he remains so simple because he always valued simplicity and well-grounded in his approach. We are glad to know that this unyielding spirit has created ripple effects in advancing the social justice, human rights works that he has mooted, and the legacy that he has left behind is being continued. I am humbled to say I'm one of them. He has been the very reason, the source of inspiration to continue my voice for the oppressed. That's why I opted to work with the grassroots communities, human rights NGOs since after my high school actually, college days, and until now. Continue activism and working video and technology for human rights globally. As a father, needless to say, he was our best friend, excellent mentor, great role model, and loving dad who always walked the talk. Growing up surrounded and shaped by our parents' service mindset, their core values and virtues strongly rooted in our family too. It is unbelievable that our dad has gone. Your kind words and loving support mean a lot to my family and during these difficult times. At this moment, we started documenting and preserving his work. Dad has written many training manuals, articles, and extensive research, and we are trying to make the work available to all. Before his passing, he has completed his book transcript, which is still in rough stage, and we are working on completing and publishing his book. Among others, we already heard from Dr. Janison and others about the idea of foundation or trust or training center. He always talk about like continuing the training support with the communities, and also some ideas of like how we can re-envision microcredit during this pandemic, and how we can decentralize the financial system and people-oriented systems that can support and sustain during these difficult times. One of the, like his mentor, his father Keraf, I had only one overseas trip. I like followed him to Davao to meet the late father Keraf, to look at his farm and work with the farmers, poor farmers in Mindanao. And also he talked about the history and the work while he was in Batam many years ago. This further made me witness where he got his inspiration from. Family and friends, we like to continue his legacy. As he always says, empowering children, women, and the marginalized is an asset for the future and the world. Once again, I would like to thank you all for organizing and joining this memorial sharing. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you, Prakash, and all family members, our sister Rebecca, Arul Selvam, Peter Rayapan, for joining us. I thought it's fitting and appropriate at this point of reflection that we invite Bishop Julian to say a few words on reflection, as well as pray for the family and pray for the movement and so forth, that the work will continue. Thank you, Bishop, for joining us. If I can pass the time to you.
Thank you, Dr. Denison. A very good morning to the family members of Dr. Paul, distinguished guests, or rather friends, family, people who have been involved in the movement. I just want to say that we hope his legacy continues in the different people that he has touched in his life. And I believe his own family too, following in his footsteps in many ways, in different ways. Rebecca also, I had the privilege to meet, I think a few weeks before Paul left. And I heard earlier on, behind every successful man, there is a woman. And I think Rebecca also was with him, beside him, together with the children, absorbing all that Paul stood for and is. So I pray that his legacy, his very many different involvement in social justice, in caring for the most vulnerable, in building bridges, unifying different groups. This will continue in us in different degrees, in different ways. And we pray that, especially in this time, in this juncture of our history in Malaysia, and also during this pandemic, not only the poor, but the new poor that has been created from this pandemic will also be addressed by the different organizations, that we will become more and more aware. The B40, I think, has been now increased. The M40 have, perhaps many have moved into the B category now. And I believe too, many with pride in their hearts will not ask for help, and yet they need our help. So I pray that we will be sensitive, and the different organizations will continue to reach out, especially to those who are in most need. And I also pray that we will respond accordingly. So I would just like to conclude by praying for the family, that they will carry on this legacy in the children, in Rebecca also, and that all of us who had an opportunity to know Paul Sinappan will also share his vision, his enthusiasm, his very life to live on in us. So I ask Almighty God to bless the family members, to bless all the different movements that Paul had been involved in and has touched in his life of service to the nation, to the poor, to the different work that he was involved in, and of course to the church also, that we who have been touched by him will also, his memory, his vision will live on in us. And therefore I ask God Almighty to bless the family members and to bless all of us in our respective involvement in this mission. And I ask that the Lord keeps all of you, keeps us safe in this difficult period, and to also look after those most vulnerable in our society. And may God bless you all, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop, and thanks to everyone. Our regards to the family members thank the different people who participated. We'd like to thank Chandra from Jogjakarta, who actually sort of did the poster and is doing hosting of the meeting, this online conversation. I think Chandra likes to take a group photo. If those can switch on your cameras, please do. It's a photo that we will pass on to the family. We will also contact you if Arul and others decide on what form they want to continue, whether it's a trust, whether it's a center, because we might have to raise funds as well and resources. And that's something that can be done collectively by all concerned parties, friends, but of course the family has to decide on that. Chandra, can I pass it to you? Chandra, where are you?
Yes, wait a second. Okay, let me take, I need to take 4 times. So please give me a second. Okay, we can start now with the first. Okay, please.
You don't want to on your camera?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Okay.
Okay, I have a good one in the first frame. Okay, wait, Bro Anthony Roger, do you want to join the photo session?
Yes,
Because,
yes,
okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay, I see you now.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
okay, good. Okay. Okay, I have you, Bro Rogers. And then, okay, I must take the second one. And then I will take the third one. Okay, I have you all. Thank you, everyone. And don't forget that I put a chat that the recording of this wonderful moment is available on our YouTube also.
Okay. Thank you very much, and let's be in touch. If you want to stay a few minutes to say hello or talk, you're welcome to, but the formal part of the program is over. Thanks to Bishop, Dato Saifuddin, Dato Yusuf, Dr. Ben, family members of Paul Sinappan, and Pak Bambang from Indonesia. I see a lot more faces with the cameras on. I think sometimes I see Prof. K.S. Nathan, Shanti, and yeah, very good. Very good team of people. All, yes.
As a response to that,
Thank you.
Yes, Ben, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
ASEC, because we have this youth entrepreneurship program.
Yes.
We can segue, we can spin off from that program together with James Raj and Chandra.
Yes.
Paul Sinappan program on savings, because that is one of the things that legacy of Paul,
Yes.
And maybe this is the ASEC contribution. For example, Malaysia will set up a training center in honor of Paul Sinappan.
Yes.
We can continue this, but this is something that the ASEC can do to honor Paul Sinappan.
Sure. Thank you. And also the ASEC program. Tomorrow, Dr. Ben and others are doing, we are trying to identify people below 30 to inspire them. So I think James and Chandra have put a program of identifying young people from Indonesia, Sri Lanka, who are part of the speakers tomorrow, Hong Kong. And I think Chandra can pass that info to all, but I think we'll take it up, Ben, with Dato Yusuf, how to see that. And of course, Dato Saifuddin for some launching grant dan sebagainya, we can see. Thank you.
Okay.
Pastor Denison.
Yes, who?
If I'm Alice here.
Yeah, Alice.
You're talking about a trust fund. Is there going to be a bank number that we can put in money?
Oh, okay. I think, no, it's something Prakash and all have to work out. Prakash,
Oh.
I think nothing has been formalized. I think Prakash had that in mind. But Prakash, you want to say something? Somebody wanted to make a donation to the fund.
Thank you, Professor.
At the moment, like we haven't like set up yet. Like we still discussing.
Not set up
so
yet.
I posted my contact details. Please keep in touch. When there's a progress, we would like to share the information later. Thank
We
you.
can keep in touch by WhatsApp, is it?
Yes, I will
chat.
post again my number. Yep.
Yeah, I've got the number. I've got your number, so we'll put it on WhatsApp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for organizing this.
Oh, okay, okay.
I
Yeah.
knew him a little while only. I mean, a few years since brother Alfred, the lawyer, Alfred Venkatasalam. I don't know whether you know him.
Okay.
So through him, I got to know him, and I wrote my comments on the page, so you can
Sure.
see.
Chandra will note the comments. We'll try and compile. There is a recording of this event, which Chandra will make it available, because I think these are stories we must remember. And it's not only the life story, but the work and
The work is done.
the
Yes.
approach and things of that sort. So I think it's something very good for all of us to learn. And we have had today people from Indonesia as well as the Philippines who have been part of this program. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Stay safe.
Yes, to all as well. I see Shanti, I see Prof. Nathan, I see so many others. Thank you for joining us.